I buried my wife at 10 in the morning because that's when the cemetery guy had the backhoe scheduled, and because grief, like everything else in this world, runs on other people's timetables. The pews were empty. Not sparse. Empty. I counted 4 people, the funeral director, a woman from the hospice who'd only met Mara once, the cemetery worker smoking by his truck, and me. The sound of the backhoe idling filled the silence between the priest's practiced words. It wasn't a ceremony so much as an appointment being checked off a list. The priest didn't even look up from his notes when he said her name. He pronounced it wrong, too. Mayra, instead of Ma-ah. I didn't correct him. She would have hated that. My kids picked a different service that day. Bottomless mimosas. I know this because Mrs. Del Vecchio, the HOA's self-appointed information minister, showed me the Instagram stories while I was hauling folding chairs back into the funeral home's storage closet. Evan, my son, mid-toast with a cocktail umbrella. Lena, my daughter, laughing in a rooftop pool. Both of them tagged. Both of them very much not at their mother's funeral. "Oh, Gabe, I'm sure there's an explanation," Mrs. Del Vecchio said, her voice dripping with the kind of sympathy that's really just curiosity wearing a nice dress. Her little dog yapped at my ankles like it was demanding an answer too. I didn't give her one. Instead, I finished stacking the chairs, checked the lock on the storage room twice, because that's what you do when you've spent 30 years maintaining stadium equipment, and drove home to the mid-rise apartment Mara and I bought 23 years ago. The lobby smelled like lemon disinfectant and Mrs. Del Vecchio's perfume. She'd beaten me home naturally. Probably broke the speed limit to do it. She was waiting by the mailboxes, pretending to sort envelopes, the kind of nosiness that comes disguised as neighborliness. I ignored her, nodded once, and took the elevator up. The ride was silent except for the hum of the fluorescent light above, one of those tubes that flickers just enough to make you think about calling maintenance, even when you are maintenance. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, with Mara's filing system spread out in front of me. She was meticulous, color-coded folders, tabs, everything labeled in her perfect handwriting, the kind that looked like it belonged on blueprints. She organized life the way some people arrange dominoes. One small push and everything moved exactly as she planned. I found the envelope marked, "If they don't come," tucked behind the mortgage documents. Inside, a single piece of paper with a phone number and a name. Rourke, compliance. No explanation, no note, just that. The paper smelled faintly of her perfume, something floral and precise, like lilies lined up in formation. I stared at it for 20 minutes. Mara never did anything without a reason. She planned Sunday dinners 2 weeks out. She scheduled oil changes by mileage, not by the sticker on the windshield. If she left me this number, she meant for me to use it. I picked up my phone and dialed. It rang 4 times. A man answered, voice steady, no greeting. "This is Rourke. My name is Gabe Kovalchuk. My wife. I know who you are. I'll be in touch." He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, feeling something shift in my chest. Not relief, not quite anger either. Something colder, more mechanical, like the sound of a switch flipping on in a dark room. I went to the hallway closet and pulled out my toolbox. Spent the next 2 hours rekeying the apartment's deadbolt and the knob lock. New pins, new tumblers. The old keys wouldn't work anymore. I labeled the new set, put them in my pocket, and went to bed. The old keys went into the kitchen junk drawer, buried under expired coupons and mismatched batteries. At 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. A notification from the Ring camera I'd installed over the door last year. Motion detected. I pulled up the video. Evan, standing in the hallway, trying his key in the lock. Once, twice, 3 times. He leaned close to the peephole, then stepped back and looked at the camera directly. He knew I was watching. His mouth moved. The camera didn't pick up audio in the hallway, but I didn't need it. I could read lips well enough. We'll just ask at the wedding. He left. I watched the video 4 more times, then downloaded it to 3 separate locations: cloud, hard drive, USB stick in my gym bag. I didn't know why I did it. Maybe instinct, maybe habit. Mara used to say I had a maintenance brain. Everything was a system that could fail, and every system needed backup. The next morning, my phone lit up with a text from Lena. Try to be normal at Evan's wedding, and bring the apartment keys. I read it twice. Then I went to my workbench in the storage unit downstairs and pulled out the pack of AirTags I'd bought last month for tracking my tools. I activated one, slipped it into a spare key fob casing, and added it to my keyring. During Evan's tuxedo fitting the next afternoon, I volunteered to hang the garment bag in my car so it wouldn't wrinkle. Instead, I tucked the second AirTag into the interior pocket. Insurance. Mara used to say I overthought things. Maybe. But in 30 years of maintenance work, I'd learned one thing. If you don't plan for the worst plans for you. The wedding was in 3 days. I started a list. First line, talk to Rourke. I didn't know who he was or what compliance meant. Corporate, government, something else. The number had no area code I recognized. When I tried calling it again, it went straight to voicemail. No greeting, no tone, just dead air. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the black screen of the phone. My face looked older than it had at the funeral. Harder. The next day, while sorting through Mara's files again, I found a second folder I hadn't noticed before, labeled simply Home. Inside were receipts, dozens of them, for items I didn't remember buying. Flash drives, prepaid phones, a P.O. box in a neighboring county. Taped to one receipt was a sticky note in her handwriting, in case they turn. Who they were, she didn't say. By the second night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in Mara's old recliner, the one with the worn armrests, watching the apartment's front door through the camera feed. Every creak from the hallway made my shoulders tense. At 3:12 a.m., the elevator dinged. Footsteps approached. Someone paused outside my door, breathing heavy. Then a whisper. Dad? Lena. I didn't answer. I watched her fumble with her phone, type something and then leave. Moments later, my phone buzzed. Dad, stop ignoring us. You're scaring people, not her, not Evan, people. The following morning, I went to the storage unit again. I dug out the box of Mara's things I hadn't opened yet, her notebooks. She'd always kept one for everything, groceries, repairs, even birthdays. The one I found had a black cover, labeled only with a date, March 12, 2023. Inside were pages of notes, written in her neat block print, diagrams of circuits, addresses, phrases circled and underlined. One line stood out, Trust Rourke, do not trust the children. I read it 3 times before setting the notebook down. Outside, the city was waking up. Car horns, garbage trucks, the rhythm of people moving forward, while I sat frozen in a chair full of ghosts. Mara had never been paranoid. Methodical, yes, suspicious sometimes, but never paranoid. If she'd written that, she believed it. By noon, I was in my car, driving to the P.O. box listed on her receipt. The post office was in a strip mall beside a nail salon and a vape shop. The clerk didn't ask questions when I showed Mara's key. He just handed me a small padded envelope. Inside was another note, folded around a USB drive. Play only once, the note read. At home, I plugged it into an old laptop disconnected from the internet. The video that opened was grainy, shot from what looked like a hidden camera in our own kitchen. Mara sat at the table, speaking directly to the lens. If you're seeing this, Gabe, I didn't make it. They're not who they say they are. The kids, Evan and Lena, they've been compromised. Compliance can help you understand. Call Rourke. Tell him it's active. She hesitated, then added, Don't let them in. The screen went black. I sat there for a long time, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence. The word compromised echoed in my head. My kids, our kids. Mara was the most rational person I'd ever known, but this sounded like something out of a bad spy movie. And yet, the video was real. Her face, her voice, the fear in her eyes. That wasn't fiction. That evening, I noticed the AirTag on my keychain had moved. The tracker showed it had traveled across town and was now stationary at an address I didn't recognize, an event venue. When I zoomed in on the map, I realized it was the same place Evan's wedding rehearsal was scheduled. My phone buzzed again, a message from an unknown number. "Mr. Kovalchuk, this is Rourke. It's time we met. Come alone. Midnight, Dock 12, Old Port." I read it twice. By midnight, I was there. The docks were deserted, the air heavy with the smell of salt and rust. A single man stood under a flickering lamp, hands in his coat pockets. He looked like he could have been a cop or someone who knew how to be mistaken for one. "You came," he said. His voice matched the one from the phone. "You said you'd be in touch." He nodded once. "Mara was right about you. Careful, disciplined." "What's this about? What did she mean, compromised?" Rourke looked past me, scanning the shadows. "Your children are involved in something bigger than you understand. Compliance was, a containment unit. Mara helped us track infiltration patterns. They got to her first." I wanted to laugh, to tell him he was insane, but then he handed me a photo, Evan and Lena, sitting at a table with two strangers I didn't recognize. The date stamp was from last month. On the table between them, a small silver case identical to the one Mara had once hidden in her desk drawer. "What is that?" I asked. Rourke's eyes were flat. "A transmitter, prototype she built for us. They sold it." The wind off the water stung my eyes. I didn't know what to say. "She told you not to trust them for a reason," he said. "Now you need to decide how far you're willing to go to find out the truth." He turned to leave. "Wait," I said. "What am I supposed to do?" "Go to the wedding," he said, "and watch." Then he disappeared into the fog. When I got home, I sat at the table again, the list in front of me. I added one more line beneath "Talk to Rourke." Watch the kids. The wedding was in 2 days, and for the first time since Mara died, I wasn't sure who I was mourning anymore. Before we continue, hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We'd love to get to know our audience better. The Riverton Harbour Club smelled like money and white roses. Evan and Alyssa had rented the whole venue, which meant they'd blown through their budget, and probably mine too. I signed the check they'd asked for without reading the amount. Mara would have wanted me to. That was 4 months ago, before the hospice, before the empty pews. I wore my good suit, the charcoal one I'd bought for Lena's college graduation. It still fit. I stood in the back during the ceremony, near the exit, counting the emergency lights and checking the panic bar mechanisms out of habit. Alyssa looked like a magazine cover. Evan looked like a man who'd gotten everything he wanted and still wasn't satisfied. I knew that look. I'd seen it on stadium vendors who skimmed the register, on contractors who cut corners on safety rails. The reception started at 6. Seated dinner for 120 guests. I got table 14, near the kitchen. Not with family, with Mara's former co-workers from the library and a couple I didn't recognize. Alyssa worked the room like a campaign manager, touching shoulders, laughing at the right moments. Her smile was perfect, too perfect. At 7:30, the DJ handed her a microphone. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "Family means everything to us. It's why we're so excited to start this new chapter." She turned and looked directly at me. "And Gabe, Evan's father, we're so grateful you could make it. We know things have been hard since Mara passed." A murmur of sympathy rippled through the crowd. "Actually," Alyssa continued, her smile widening, "there's something we wanted to ask you, something Evan and I have been talking about for a while now." I felt my jaw tighten. This wasn't improvisation. This was choreography. We know you're living in that big apartment all alone now, and we were hoping, since we're starting our lives together, that maybe you'd consider letting us take over the lease. It would mean so much. To all of us. She held out her hand. Palm up. Do you have the keys with you? We could make it official tonight, in front of everyone, a real family moment. The room went silent. 120 people, all watching. I stood up slowly. My chair scraped against the floor. No. One word. Flat. Final. Alyssa's smile flickered. I'm sorry. I said no. Her face hardened. Gabe, we're not asking for charity. We'll pay rent. We just thought... You thought wrong. She took a step toward me. Her hand was still out, but it wasn't open anymore. It was a fist. You're being unreasonable. I'm being clear. And then she slapped me. Not hard, not enough to knock me back or split my lip, just enough to make a sound, enough for everyone to see. The room froze. I didn't move, didn't touch my face. I just looked at her, and then at Evan, who was halfway out of his chair, mouth open, calculating. I pulled out my phone and dialed the number Mara had left me. It rang once. I'm outside, Rourke said. I hung up and walked toward the entrance. Behind me, I heard Alyssa hiss something to Evan. Chairs scraped. Voices rose. I pushed open the double doors and stepped into the lobby. A man stood by the coat check. Late 50s, maybe 60. Short grey hair, work boots and a clean flannel shirt under a canvas jacket. He looked like someone who'd spent his life fixing things, not breaking them. Gabe, he said. Rourke. He nodded. Let's find somewhere quiet. Behind us, the ballroom doors opened. Alyssa stormed out, Evan right behind her. Lena and her husband Nico brought up the rear. Then something strange happened. A woman near the entrance, one of the older guests, gasped. Her hand went to her mouth. She started crying. Another guest, a man in his 60s, stood up from his chair in the lobby. Tom Rourke? More heads turned, more recognition, more tears. Rourke didn't react. He just stood there, solid as a foundation pier. Who the hell is this? Evan demanded. Someone who showed up when it mattered, I said. The venue security supervisor, a guy named Hodges, I'd trained 15 years ago when I was still running stadium operations, appeared at my elbow. Mr. Kovalchuk, is there a problem? Just need a private room for 10 minutes, I said. Hodges looked at Rourke, then at the crying guests, then at Alyssa's furious face. He made a decision. Conference room B, this way. We followed him down a side corridor. Alyssa tried to come with us, but Hodges held up a hand. Immediate family and involved parties only, ma'am. Venue policy. She looked like she wanted to argue. Then she saw the other security supervisor, Green, standing behind Hodges with her arms crossed, and decided against it. The conference room was small, 6 chairs, a table, a water pitcher. Rourke sat down. I sat across from him. Why did my wife have your number? I asked. He folded his hands on the table. Because she knew how your kids treat leverage. I waited. Mara contacted me 8 months ago, said she needed someone neutral to manage things after she was gone, someone who understood compliance, someone who couldn't be bought or guilted. And you agreed. I did. Why? He looked at me for a long moment. Because I owe Alyssa's mother a debt I can never repay, and because Mara understood that sometimes love means saying no. My phone buzzed, an AirTag notification. Item has moved outside designated area. I opened the app. Evan's garment bag was on the move, heading toward the parking garage. I showed Rourke the screen. He almost smiled. Your wife said you'd be thorough. Hodges's radio crackled. He pressed the button. Hodges, this is Green. We've got your son on the west stairwell with bolt cutters. You want us to hold him? I stood up. I'll handle it. Rourke stood too. No, we'll handle it. The parking garage stank of oil and exhaust. Level C through G, connected by ramps wide enough for catering trucks and limousines. The lighting was motion-activated, which meant half the structure lived in shadow until you walked through it. I knew this garage. I'd consulted on the electrical retrofit 6 years ago when the Harbour Club upgraded their security system. I knew where the cameras were. I knew which lights ran on which circuits. I knew every blind spot. Hodges and Green flanked me as we moved down the ramp to level D. Rourke followed 3 paces back, quiet. The AirTag signal put Evan near the northwest corner, by the service elevator. We found him bent over the lock on a storage cage, bolt cutters in hand. His tuxedo jacket was off. Sweat darkened his shirt. "Evan." He jumped, spun around. Saw me, saw Hodges and Green in their security blazers. "Dad, this isn't what it looks like." "Looks like you're trying to break into a restricted area." I left something in there, from when I helped set up earlier." "You helped set up?" Yeah, I carried some chairs. With bolt cutters." He didn't answer. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my keyring, held up the fob with the AirTag inside. "Yours is in your jacket pocket, the one in the garment bag I carried for you yesterday." His face went white. I stepped closer. "What were you looking for, Evan?" He squared up, chest out. The same posture he used to pull in high school when he got caught skipping class. "You don't get it, do you? Mum's gone. You're sitting in that apartment alone like some kind of hermit. We're trying to move on. We're trying to live. You're trying to take." He shoved me. Not hard, not calculated, just frustration and momentum. I planted my back foot and absorbed it. 30 years of climbing scaffolding and wrestling equipment racks had given me a low center of gravity. Evan stumbled forward, off balance. Hodges moved fast, got between us, put a hand on Evan's chest. "Sir, I need you to step back." Evan shoved at him too. Bad idea. Green was on him in 2 steps. She twisted his arm behind his back, not brutal, just professional, and walked him 3 paces away from the storage cage. The bolt cutters clattered to the concrete. Something else fell too. A phone. The screen was cracked, but it was still recording. I could see the red dot in the corner of the lock screen. I picked it up carefully, showed it to Hodges. "Visible on lock screen," I said. "That makes it plain view, right?" Hodges looked at Green. She nodded. "We'll bag and tag it for the incident report," Hodges said. Evan tried to pull away. "You can't take that. That's my property." "You dropped it during a security incident on private property," Green said. "We're required to document it." I scrolled through the lock screen notifications without unlocking the phone. A group chat preview showed at the top. Keys or else, 47 new messages. I handed the phone to Hodges. He slipped it into an evidence bag from his belt. "Mr. Kovalchuk, do you want to press charges?" Hodges asked. "No, but I want him escorted off the property." Evan's face went red. "You're throwing me out of my own wedding?" "Your reception," I said. "The ceremony's over. You got what you came for." Green walked him toward the exit ramp. He tried to twist back, yell something, but she kept him moving. Hodges stayed with me. "You okay?" "Fine." "That was a setup, wasn't it? The key thing upstairs." I didn't answer. He shook his head. "Your wife was a smart lady. I only met her a couple times, but she always struck me as someone who thought 3 moves ahead." "4, I said. Back in the conference room, Rourke had spread a file folder across the table. Notarized documents, time-stamped letters, a ledger in Mara's handwriting. "Your wife filed a living trust 6 months ago," Rourke said. "Named me as trust protector. The role activates under specific conditions." "What conditions?" "Documented disrespect or neglect at end-of-life events, witnessed by at least 2 neutral third parties." I sat down heavily. "The funeral. And the wedding. The public demand. The slap. Hodges and Green just witnessed it. They'll sign statements tonight if you want to proceed." "Proceed to what?" "Enforcement. Your apartment, your accounts, the contents of the storage unit. All of it transfers out of your kids' reach. They lose access. You remain as resident beneficiary. Any attempt to sublease or occupy without authorization triggers automatic penalty payments to a non-profit. I stared at him. Mara set this up. She did. When? 2 months before she died. She was very clear about her reasons. What reasons? Rourke pulled out a single sheet of paper. Mara's handwriting again, shaky but legible. If they don't come to my funeral, they don't get to come for my home. My throat closed up. Rourke's radio buzzed. It was Hodges. Rourke, you need to see this. Now. We found him in the venue office, behind the front desk. He had Evan's phone connected to a charging cable. The cracked screen mirrored onto a laptop. I didn't unlock it, Hodges said. Just pulled what was visible on the lock screen and in the notification panel. Legal under our venue incident protocol. He turned the laptop toward me. The group chat, Keys or Else, had 49 participants. Alyssa, Evan, Lena, Nico, and 45 other people I didn't recognize. Friends, cousins, vendors. The messages went back 3 weeks. Alyssa: once we get the apartment, we can flip it or sublease. Market rate is $3,000 a month. Evan: he won't give it up easy. We need leverage. Lena: what if we just ask at the wedding? Public pressure. Nico: I can pull a permit for Reno before he even knows. Make it look official. Alyssa: I'll handle the ask. Trust me. And then, 2 days before the wedding. Alyssa: if he says no, I'll make a scene. People love a scene. Hodges looked at me. That's premeditation. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Mr. Kovalchuk, Hodges said quietly. I'm putting this in the incident report. You don't have to do anything with it, but it'll be on record. Rourke cleared his throat. Gabe, there's something else. He pulled out his phone and showed me a notification. HOA sublet reservation filed. Unit 14C, Kovalchuk, submitted 3 days ago. They already tried, I said. They did. The HOA rejected it because you're listed as sole leaseholder. But they tried. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, Rourke was watching me. Your kids already made their choice, he said. The question is, what's yours? I went home at midnight. Mrs. Delvecchio was waiting in the lobby with her dog and a bottle of wine. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, giving her hair a faint green tint. She looked like she'd been rehearsing whatever she wanted to say. Tight smile, lipstick freshly reapplied, a tremor in her hand she tried to disguise as warmth. Her dog, a fluffy Pomeranian with a rhinestone collar, wagged its tail as if we were old friends. We weren't. I heard about the wedding, she said, her voice soft, performative. I'm sure you did. People are talking, Gabe. Let them. She hesitated, shifting the bottle of wine from one hand to the other, the glass catching the light. It was a Cabernet, something expensive enough to look generous but cheap enough to justify if I threw it out. This is from me, she said. Not gossip, just, this is from me. I took it because refusing would have only extended the conversation. Thanks. She smiled in that way people do when they think they've done something good. You're not alone, you know. I am, actually. I turned toward the elevator. The dog yapped once, a single sharp sound, like punctuation. Upstairs, the apartment was exactly as I'd left it. Mara's books still lined the shelf in perfect alphabetical order. Her coffee mug still sat in the drying rack, handle facing right. I'd washed it 3 times since she died, but couldn't bring myself to put it away. The kitchen clock ticked in slow, deliberate beats. The refrigerator hummed, steady as breath. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my laptop. The HOA portal required 2-factor authentication, one of Mara's additions during her tenure as treasurer. She never trusted a single password to stand alone. I entered the code, then scrolled through the past year's meeting minutes. The PDFs loaded one by one, each labeled neatly, January, February, March. January caught my eye. Addendum 14C, filed by Mara Kovalchuk, approved by board vote 6-1. No unauthorized occupants. Violations trigger penalty rent payable to Joyland Youth Housing Foundation. Rate 500 talks a day. Mara had attended that meeting alone. I'd been at work, repairing a hydraulic lift at the stadium. She'd texted me afterward. Long night, all fine. I hadn't thought much of it. Now I read her proposal 3 times. No unauthorized occupants. That wasn't the kind of language she'd write without a purpose. She was always deliberate, always calculating the downstream effect of a policy. If she'd built this rule into the HOA charter, she'd done it to block someone specific, or something. I scrolled down to the meeting transcript. There was a note. Concerns raised about transient leasing, subletting, and misuse of common spaces. Mara had been quoted saying, "Home integrity matters. Once you lose control of who's living where, everything unravels." At the time, it sounded like standard HOA paranoia. Now, it felt like a warning written for me. I pulled up the city's permit portal next, entering our address into the search bar. 3 recent entries appeared, all filed under Nico Stavros, General Contractor. 1 approved, 2 pending review. The approved one read, Interior cosmetic renovation, non-structural. Cosmetic, a catch-all term that covered everything from replacing light fixtures to gutting a kitchen. I recognized the permit number format. It was an expedited approval, the kind you got when you knew someone in the department or when the inspector owed you a favor. I saved everything to a folder labeled Documentation. Then I went through Mara's files again. She'd left 3 envelopes. I'd opened 2. The third was labeled Second Ask. Inside, a printed email chain. The first email was from Melissa's assistant to a moving company. Need to schedule a move-out for October 14th. 2-bedroom apartment, mid-rise, downtown. Client will provide keys on receipt of deposit. October 14th was 6 days away. The reply, deposit received. Crew confirmed. Please provide building access codes by October 12th. Mara had forwarded the chain to herself from Alyssa's email. I had no idea how she'd gotten access. Maybe Alyssa had logged in on Mara's laptop once. Maybe Mara had guessed the password. She was good at that. She had an intuition for people's blind spots. It didn't matter. The email was real. The timestamp was real. Alyssa. My late wife's supposed friend, realtor, decorator, fixer of other people's lives. She'd hovered around Mara's hospital bed near the end, all smiles and promises. Don't you worry, hun, we'll keep Gabe in good hands. I'd believed her for about 5 minutes, right up until the hospice nurse mentioned Alyssa had been asking about property deeds. I opened my phone and texted Rourke. Found the smoking gun. Moving company scheduled for 6 days from now. His reply came in 30 seconds. Forward everything. I'll have my attorney review tonight. I did. Screenshots, PDFs, the whole chain. Then I checked my voicemails. 7 new messages. 3 from Lena, 2 from Evan, 1 from Alyssa's assistant, 1 from Nico. I played Nico's first. Hey, Gabe, it's Nico. Look, I know things got weird tonight, but I wanted to give you a heads up. I pulled a permit for some work on your place. Just minor stuff. Flooring, paint. Figured we'd help you spruce it up. Anyway, the inspector's coming by Friday, so if you could make sure someone's there to let him in, that'd be great. Thanks, man. His voice was casual, friendly, the kind of tone you use when you're lying and hoping the other person doesn't check. I saved the voicemail, forwarded it to Rourke. Then I called a friend. Dennis worked in city inspections. We'd collaborated on a dozen stadium projects over the years. He owed me a favor from the time I caught a contractor using counterfeit fire-rated materials. Gabe, it's late, he said when he answered, his voice rough with fatigue. I need a permit check. He sighed. Address. I gave it to him. Typing sounds on the other end, keys clacking against a background of low radio static. Yeah, I see it. Interior cosmetic reno. Filed by Stavros. Approved Tuesday. Who approved it? Looks like Miller. He's new. Young guy. Probably doesn't know the regs as well as he should. Can you flag it for review? On what grounds? The property owner didn't authorize the work. Silence. You're the property owner. Exactly. More silence. I'll kick it back to Miller in the morning, Dennis said finally. He'll have to contact the applicant for updated authorization. That should slow things down. Thanks, Dennis. Gabe, this sounds messy. It is. You need help. I've got help. I hung up. The apartment felt smaller after that call. The walls seemed closer, the hum of the refrigerator louder. I poured a glass of the wine from Mrs. Delvecchio's bottle and stared at the deep red swirl in the light. I didn't drink it. I set it down and watched the reflection tremble with every heartbeat. At 1:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Storage facility auto alert. Unit 3C accessed at 1:12 a.m. Emergency contact notified. Unit 3C was mine. I was the emergency contact. I grabbed my keys and my jacket. The drive to the storage facility took 15 minutes. The streets were mostly empty, slick with the residue of a light rain. Streetlights flickered past like metronome ticks, each one marking the rhythm of something I couldn't yet name. When I pulled into the lot, the security gate was half open. It should have been closed after midnight. I parked under the nearest lamp and stepped out. The air smelled of metal and wet concrete. Inside, the hallway lights were motion-triggered, buzzing to life as I walked. My footsteps echoed. The rows of roll-up doors stretched ahead, identical and endless. I counted the numbers until I reached 3C. The padlock was still hanging, but the latch was loose. Someone had picked it. Carefully, professionally. I eased the door up. The smell hit first: oil, metal, dust, and something else. Something faintly electrical, like burnt insulation. The lights overhead flickered. My workbench was half open, drawers pulled out just enough to make it clear someone had searched them. Toolboxes, cabinets, even the pegboard had gaps where tools were missing. Not everything, just select items, precision gear, my torque driver, the small soldering iron Mara used when she worked on circuits. The lockpick set she'd once joked about buying for fun. A single envelope sat on the bench, my name written in block letters. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a photo, grainy black and white, clearly taken from a security camera feed. It showed me, sitting in my kitchen, staring at the laptop. The timestamp was from an hour ago. Below it, a note in typed font. Stop digging. My hand shook, not from fear exactly, but from the adrenaline of recognition. Whoever had been here knew how to get into a locked unit, knew how to access live camera feeds, and knew I'd be the one to come check. I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo of the note, forwarded it to Rourke. His response came almost immediately. Leave now. Don't go home. Call me when you're clear. But I didn't leave. Not yet. I checked every drawer again, slower this time. One thing was missing I hadn't noticed before, the hard drive where I'd backed up the ring footage of Evan outside my door. That did it. I slammed the roll door down and locked it. Outside, the wind had picked up, whistling through the narrow alleys between buildings. My car sat under the yellow cone of the streetlight, alone in the dark lot. I started the engine and drove aimlessly for a while, through industrial blocks and quiet neighborhoods, until I found myself near the river. I parked by the water and finally called Rourke. He answered on the first ring. Where are you? By the river. They were in my unit. Did you see anyone? No, but they took something. What? A hard drive, security footage, from my apartment. Silence stretched. Then Rourke said, They're moving faster than I thought. Who's they? The same people Mara was tracking, the same ones who turned your kids. Don't start that again, I said. though the words had less conviction than I wanted. They're not. Gabe, listen to me. The moment she filed that HOA addendum, she put herself on their radar. That rule wasn't about tenants, it was about containment. Your building was one of our nodes. She was trying to close it off before they could access it. Access what? The data streams. You think that HOA portal was for meeting minutes? That's a shell system. Mara designed it to monitor communications routed through the foundation accounts. Joyland Youth Housing isn't real. It's a holding entity. They've been laundering signal traffic through real estate servers. His words barely made sense. And my kids? They're involved with Stavros and Alyssa. She's the liaison. The wedding isn't just a celebration, Gabe. It's a convergence point. I stared out at the dark river, reflections of bridge lights shivering across the water. Then what do I do? You stay alive, Rourke said, and you show up. The wedding is in 3 days. Whatever they're planning, that's when it goes live. The call ended. I sat there until dawn, the phone screen glowing dim beside me, the world outside slowly brightening, but offering no answers. When I finally drove back to the apartment, I took the long route, checking mirrors, scanning alleys, pausing at green lights. Every reflection looked like a tale. Every parked car seemed occupied. Upstairs, the air inside felt wrong, like someone had been there and left just before I arrived. The wine bottle was gone from the counter. In its place sat the Pomeranian's rhinestone collar. No note, no explanation. Just that. I stared at it for a long time, the quiet of the apartment pressing in until it felt almost physical. Then I sat down at the kitchen table again and started a new list. 1. Replace locks at storage unit. 2. Back up all files off-site. 3. Find out what Joyland really is. 4. Attend the wedding. 5. Don't drink anything you didn't open yourself. The list steadied me, the way checklists always had. Systems, procedures. That was how you stayed sane. At 9:06 a.m., Rourke texted again. Check your email. You'll find authorization documents. Use them if someone tries to access your property. I opened the email. Attached were legal documents, letters of representation, property ownership records, even a draft cease and desist notice addressed to the HOA and the city permit office. All legitimate-looking, all ready to deploy. He was giving me ammunition. For the next several hours, I worked methodically. I filed official complaints against Nico's permit. I locked down the HOA portal and changed all administrator passwords to strings so long I had to write them on paper. Then I called the building manager and scheduled a key audit for safety compliance. By late afternoon, exhaustion set in, but it wasn't the kind that sleep fixes. It was the kind that burrows under your ribs and sits there, pulsing like a bruise. The day faded into evening. I sat in the recliner, Mara's notebook on my lap, and found a new page I hadn't noticed before, dated 3 weeks before she died. They'll come for the storage unit first, she'd written. If they find the drive, they'll assume it's all I had. Keep the decoy clean. The real one is hidden where he'll never look, under the mug. My eyes went to the drying rack. Mara's mug. I stood slowly, crossed to the sink and lifted it. It was heavier than it should have been. Inside, taped beneath the base, was a micro drive no larger than a thumbnail. When I plugged it into the laptop, a single file appeared. Final schematic.mra. I double-clicked it. The screen filled with diagrams, circuits, frequency charts, lines of code. At the bottom, her handwriting scanned in. If you're reading this, it's already begun. Outside, thunder rolled over the city, and somewhere below my floor, a door closed softly, followed by footsteps that didn't belong to anyone I trusted. The storage facility was 20 minutes away, near the industrial park. I'd rented the unit 15 years ago when we downsized from the house, our last compromise before admitting that the kids were gone and that the spare rooms had become museums of who we used to be. It held everything we couldn't fit in the apartment. Old furniture, that smelled faintly of lemon oil and dust. Boxes of photographs in brittle albums. Mara's craft supplies, organized in plastic bins labeled with dates and seasons. My tool collection, the kind of thing you can't part with because every wrench, every bit, every piece of metal has a story attached to it. I used to joke that our storage unit was the real family home, just no plumbing. The gate code still worked. I pulled into the lot and parked near the office. The security lights hummed overhead, that low electrical drone that seems to vibrate in your teeth, casting everything in a sodium yellow haze. The asphalt gleamed from an earlier drizzle. Beyond the fence, the distant hum of trucks along the highway rolled like background thunder. I texted Rourke. "They're at the storage unit. I'm going in." His reply came almost immediately. "Wait for me. 5 minutes." I didn't wait. The main corridor was narrow, lined with identical orange doors on both sides. Rolling metal, padlocked. The air smelled like dust, oil, and cardboard that had been closed up too long. Somewhere, a compressor kicked on. The hum echoed through the hall like a mechanical sigh. Unit 3C was at the far end, past the elevator, and around a corner where the motion sensor light flickered, always a second behind whoever walked beneath it. I heard them before I saw them. Alyssa's voice, sharp and commanding, came through a phone speaker, her tone clipped and businesslike. "The blue folder. It should be in one of the boxes on the left." Lena's voice answered, strained, impatient. "There are like 50 boxes here." "Then open them faster." I turned the corner. Unit 3C was open. Evan and Lena were inside, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. The door was rolled halfway up, the dim corridor light spilling in at an angle. Evan had a flashlight in one hand, sweeping it over the boxes like he was searching for treasure. Lena had her phone out, the glow illuminating her face from below, the shadows making her look older, sharper. I stepped into the doorway. "Looking for something?" They froze. The sound of the flashlight dropping onto cardboard echoed louder than it should have. Evan recovered first. "Dad, we were just breaking and entering?" He glanced at Lena, then back at me. "You gave me a key years ago. I still have it." "That key opens a unit I pay for," I said evenly. "It doesn't give you permission to go through my things at 1 a.m. Lena stood up, brushing dust from her jeans. "We're not stealing anything. We're just trying to find some paperwork. For Mom." "What paperwork?" She hesitated, eyes flicking toward the phone in her hand. Alyssa's voice came again, tinny and precise. "Tell him it's the trust documents. Tell him we need to verify the terms." I walked fully into the unit, pulling a rolling dolly from the corner and positioning it across the narrow aisle, blocking the only exit. "You want the trust documents," I said quietly. "Fine, but you're not taking them. You're not taking anything." Evan's jaw tightened. His shoulders squared the way they used to when he played defense in high school, ready to move forward, fast, if he had to. "You can't keep us here," he said. "I'm not keeping you anywhere," I said. "You're free to leave, but you're not leaving with my property." He took a step toward me. I didn't move. He took another, slower this time, his breath catching. Behind me, footsteps approached, measured, deliberate. Then a shadow stretched across the concrete. Rourke appeared in the doorway, solid and silent, wearing the same dark jacket as the night we met. He didn't raise his voice when he spoke. "Everything all right, Gabe?" Evan stopped mid-step. "Who the hell is this guy?" "Someone who knows the law better than you do," Rourke said. Lena's phone buzzed in her hand. She looked down. The light from the screen reflected in her wet eyes. Her voice was small when she said, "Nico's here." A moment later, heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor. Nico rounded the corner, carrying a clipboard and wearing a contractor's vest that made him look official in the way conmen always do, professional, but slightly too clean. "Hey, Gabe," he said, as if this were all an inconvenience, not a trespass. "Glad you're here. I wanted to talk to you about the inspection. There's been a little misunderstanding with the permit office, and I pulled out my phone and dialed Dennis, put it on speaker. It rang twice before a groggy voice answered. "Gabe, it's 2 a.m. "I've got Nico Stavros here," I said evenly. "He wants to talk about the permit he filed without my authorization." There was a pause on the other end, a low exhale. "Put him on." I held the phone toward Nico. He stared at it, then at me, then at Rourke. His confidence leaked out of him like air from a punctured tire. I was just trying to help." Dennis's voice cut through, firm now, official. "Mr. Stavros, the permit you filed for 1247 Riverside, Unit 14C, has been flagged for unauthorized application. You're required to cease all work immediately and provide updated ownership authorization within 48 hours. Failure to comply will result in permit revocation and potential fines. Do you understand?" Nico's face went red, then white, then red again. He swallowed hard. Yeah, I understand." "Good," Dennis said. "You'll be hearing from my office in the morning." I ended the call. The silence afterward was almost physical. Nico turned on his heel and walked away without another word. His footsteps faded down the corridor. Evan started to follow, but Rourke stepped into the aisle, blocking him with one slow, deliberate movement. "The alarm system here has a 10-minute auto-lock feature when it's triggered," Rourke said calmly. "Keeps people from running off with stolen property during a security event." As if on cue, the unit door began to slide down. The grinding of metal on metal echoed through the corridor. "Wait," Lena said. The door closed and locked with a heavy, final clunk. We stood there in the dim light. The single overhead bulb flickered, casting long, angular shadows across the boxes and furniture. The air was dry, thick with the scent of cardboard and oil. Alyssa's voice crackled again from Lena's phone, anxious now. "What's happening? Lena? Evan?" I picked up a box near my feet. The label read Kitchen Misc. I opened it. Inside were envelopes, greeting cards, dozens of them. Some sealed, some torn open, gift cards, still in their plastic sleeves. I pulled one out, a $50 Visa card. The activation sticker still intact. "Where did this come from?" I asked. Lena looked away, biting her lip. I pulled out another, and another. 15 cards, 20, all activated, all unused. The dates on the receipts were from last year, the months when Mara had been in hospice. "These were from Mara's hospice fund," I said quietly. "People gave cash. You were supposed to buy her things she needed. Comfort items, books, her favorite snacks." Evan's voice cracked. "We were going to use them, You just what?" I said. "Saved them for later. Forgot about them." Lena's tears came fast, her shoulders shaking. She whispered, "We didn't know what to do." Alyssa said, I set the box down carefully. Footsteps echoed again outside, this time steady and purposeful. The rolling door unlocked and slid up with a smooth hiss. Rourke stood there, holding a sealed courier pouch. 10 minutes, he said, glancing at his watch. Exactly. He stepped inside and set the pouch on top of a stack of boxes. The metallic seal glinted under the flickering light. Inside this, he said, are the trust documents your mother filed 6 months ago. Signed, witnessed, notarized, time-stamped. He opened the pouch and pulled out a thick folder, its edges crisp and uncreased, the paper heavy with importance. Behavioral triggers, he said, flipping a page. Documented neglect or disrespect at end-of-life events. The funeral, the wedding. 2 neutral third-party witnesses required. He looked up at me. His expression didn't change, but his voice softened, almost regretful. Hodges and Green have agreed to sign tonight, he said. Their statements are being notarized as we speak. Evan's breath came fast and shallow. You can't do this. I'm not doing anything, Rourke said. Your mother did. I'm just enforcing her wishes. The air felt heavy, thick enough to press against the ribs. The fluorescent light above us buzzed. threatening to die but never quite giving out. Lena sat down on a box and covered her face. Her phone slipped from her hand and hit the concrete with a sharp crack. The screen went black. Alyssa's voice came through one last time before the connection died. "Lena, don't sign anything. Do you hear me? Don't—" Lena ended the call with a trembling finger. Rourke handed me a pen. "Sign here," he said, "and it's done." I looked at the line on the page, my name already printed beneath it. The weight of the pen felt wrong in my hand, too light for what it represented. I thought of Mara at her desk, labeling folders in that same steady handwriting, her attention absolute. I thought of her voice when she'd told me, half joking, "If something ever happens, just follow the paperwork. It knows more than anyone." I signed. Rourke nodded once, sealed the folder back into the pouch, and tucked it under his arm. "That's it," he said. "Transfer complete. The assets revert to you. The clauses regarding secondary beneficiaries are null." Evan looked like he wanted to shout, to argue, but the words wouldn't come. His mouth opened and closed, his jaw trembling. Lena whispered, "What did Mom do?" Rourke's tone softened further. "She protected what was hers, what was yours once, until you made it clear she couldn't trust you." Evan turned away, fists clenched. "This is insane." Rourke ignored him. He reached into his coat pocket and handed me a small key. "Safety deposit box downtown. She left one more thing for you there. Take it tomorrow. Alone." Then he turned and walked out, leaving the air vibrating in his absence. The door stayed open behind him. The night air drifted in, cool and metallic. I watched my children in the dim light, Evan standing rigid, his knuckles white, and Lena still sitting on the box, crying quietly into her hands. For a moment, I wanted to say something, anything to make it make sense. But there was nothing left to explain. The truth was written in Mara's perfect handwriting months ago, and I was only now catching up. We left the storage unit at 3 a.m. Evan and Lena stayed behind, sitting in the fluorescent dimness, surrounded by the pieces of their parents' lives they'd tried to take without asking. Rourke drove me home. "Get some sleep," he said. "Tomorrow's going to be busy." "What happens tomorrow?" "Enforcement. The trust clauses take effect immediately. The apartment is secured. The accounts are transferred. Your kids lose access." "And the penalties?" "Automatic. $500 per day for any unauthorized occupation or sublease attempt, paid directly to Joyland Youth Housing Foundation." I looked at him. "Why youth housing?" "Because Mara volunteered there for 10 years, and because she wanted your kids to understand what it feels like to lose a home." I didn't sleep. At 6 a.m., I was back at the kitchen table with my laptop open. Rourke had emailed me a summary of the trust terms. 73 pages of legal language that boiled down to a single truth. Mara had planned for this. She'd known the funeral would be a test. She'd known the wedding would be the detonation point. She'd built a mechanism that required no input from me beyond a single signature. I'd signed. At 8 a.m., Lena called. "Dad, please, we need to talk." "Talk? Can I come over?" "No." "Dad, you wanted the apartment, Lena. You made that clear. Now you've got nothing. That's not cruelty. That's consequence." She was crying again. "We didn't mean it. We didn't think—" "You didn't think I'd fight back. You thought I'd roll over. You thought grief would make me weak. That's not fair." "Fair. You skipped your mother's funeral to drink cocktails on a rooftop. You demanded my home at your brother's wedding. You slapped me in front of 100 people. Don't talk to me about fair." I hung up. At 10 a.m., Alyssa posted on Instagram a photo of her and Evan from the wedding, a long caption about family struggles and elder abuse and standing up for what's right. The comment section filled up fast, supportive messages from people who didn't know the full story, a few skeptical voices asking what really happened. Then someone posted a link, a video, 30 seconds long, shot from a corner of the bridal suite, Alyssa, alone, practicing in front of a mirror. She held up her hand, swung it through the air, slapped the empty space in front of her. "Like that," she said to someone off camera. "Is that convincing?" A woman's voice off-screen. "Yeah, but angrier. Make it look real." Alyssa swung again, harder. "Better?" "Perfect." The video ended. I watched it 3 times. Then I checked the source. The makeup artist, the one Alyssa had stiffed on payment for the trial session. She'd added a caption. "This is what I saw 2 hours before the ceremony. Make of it what you will." The video went viral in 90 minutes. Brand sponsors started pulling out. The fitness company that had promised Alyssa a partnership deal posted a statement about values alignment. The wedding venue issued a statement distancing themselves from client behavior inconsistent with our community standards. At noon, Rourke texted me, "The PR collapse is faster than expected. This changes the timeline." "Changes it how?" I replied. "They'll come for you directly now, publicly. Be ready." I was ready. At 2 p.m., I got a text from an unknown number. "Seaview Boardwalk, tonight." 8 p.m. "Let's end this." I called Rourke. "It's from Evan's number," I said, "but it doesn't sound like him." "It's Alyssa," Rourke said. "She's trying to control the optics. If she can get you into a public confrontation that she stages, she thinks she can spin it. So what do I do?" "You show up, but on your terms." "How?" "Leave that to me." At 7:30, I drove to the Seaview Boardwalk. The boardwalk was mostly empty, off-season. A few joggers, a couple holding hands near the pier. The mini amusement park, Joyland, sat dark and dormant at the north end, its ride skeletal against the dusk sky. I knew this place. I'd done maintenance work here 15 years ago, back when the park was still busy year-round. I knew the camera placements, the security catwalks, the blind spots and the sight lines. Rourke met me in the parking lot. "They'll be here soon," he said. "Alyssa's bringing a crowd." "How do you know?" "Because she posted about it an hour ago, a live event. Confronting family injustice. She's got 200 confirmed attendees." I stared at him. "She's turning this into a spectacle." "She's trying to. We're going to turn it into something else." He handed me a small remote. "The concession stand has a display monitor. It's wired to a local media server. I loaded a file this afternoon." "What file?" "The bridal suite video, plus some other footage Hodges gave me from the wedding venue. Security cameras. Multiple angles of the slap. You're going to play it here?" "Not me, you." At 8:15, the crowd started arriving. Cars, bikes, people on foot. They clustered near the entrance to Joyland, where the old ticket booth still stood. Alyssa arrived at 8:30, flanked by Evan, Lena, and Nico. She was dressed like she was going to a rally. Jeans, a blazer, hair pulled back, she carried a bullhorn. Behind her, Mrs. Del Vecchio's entire book club. Half the wedding guests, a couple of local news bloggers with cameras. I stood near the concession stand, hands in my pockets. Alyssa saw me, raised the bullhorn. "Everyone, thank you for coming. Tonight we're here to talk about what happens when power gets abused. When a man uses his grief as a weapon. When he turns his back on his own children," the crowd murmured. She kept going. "My father-in-law, Gabe Kovalchuk, has locked us out of our family home. He's using legal tricks and intimidation to punish us for trying to move forward with our lives. And tonight, we're asking him to do the right thing." She turned to me. "Gabe, give us the keys. Let us move on. Let this family heal." The crowd waited. I pulled out the remote Rourke had given me and pressed the button. The concession stand monitor flickered to life. The bridal suite video played first. Alyssa practicing the slap. The off-camera voice coaching her. The rehearsal. The crowd went silent. Then the wedding venue footage. 3 angles of the reception. The microphone moment. The demand. The slap. My face, impassive. Her face, triumphant. The silence deepened. Then a third clip. Something I hadn't seen before. Alyssa in the parking garage, talking to Evan, both of them laughing. He actually thought I was being spontaneous, she said. God, he's so gullible. The video ended. The crowd turned to look at Alyssa. She stood there, frozen, the bullhorn hanging at her side. Someone in the back yelled, "You staged it." Another voice, "You planned the whole thing." A third, "You hit him on purpose." The murmurs turned to shouts. Alyssa tried to recover, raised the bullhorn. "That video is out of context. It was edited. I was there," someone shouted. It was the makeup artist. "I filmed it myself. I watched you practice." Another voice from the side, "I'm pulling my sponsorship." And another, "My company doesn't work with people like you." Alyssa dropped the bullhorn, looked at Evan. He looked away. I stepped forward. "You wanted a public moment," I said. "Here it is." The crowd parted as I walked toward the old prize counter inside the Joyland entrance. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small shadow box. Inside, the original apartment keys, the ones Mara and I had used for 23 years. I set the box on the counter. "These are the keys you wanted so badly," I said. "The keys to the home my wife and I built together. The home you tried to take without asking. The home you planned to flip for profit while I was still grieving." I looked at Alyssa, at Evan, at Lena. "You don't get them." I slid the shadow box toward Rourke, who had appeared beside me. He picked it up. "The apartment is secure," Rourke said, his voice carrying across the crowd. "Under the terms of Mara Kovalchuk's living trust, all access is now controlled by the trust protector. Any unauthorized occupation or sublease attempt triggers automatic penalty payments to Joyland Youth Housing Foundation." He turned to the crowd. "That foundation was Mara's passion project. She spent 10 years helping kids who aged out of foster care find stable housing. She wanted her home to support that work, not to be sold off by people who couldn't be bothered to show up to her funeral." Someone in the crowd started clapping, then another, then more. Alyssa looked around, desperate. "Dad?" Rourke looked at her. His face was carved from stone. "I'm your father," he said. "That's why I'm doing this. Because someone has to teach you that actions have consequences." Her face crumpled. "You're supposed to be on my side. I am on your side. That's why I'm not letting you become someone your mother would be ashamed of." Evan lunged forward, not at Rourke, at me. He was fast, but I'd seen it coming. I sidestepped, let his momentum carry him past me. Hodges and Green, who'd been standing at the edge of the crowd, moved in and restrained him. He struggled for a moment, then went limp. "Let him go," I said. They did. Evan stood there, breathing hard, fists clenched. "Say something," he said. "Yell at me, hit me, do something." I looked at him. "I don't need to," I said. "You've already lost." I turned to Lena and Nico. They were standing together, faces pale. "You can stay if you want," I said, "or you can leave. Either way, the permits are revoked, the penalties are active, and the keys are gone." Nico grabbed Lena's hand. They left. The crowd began to disperse, slowly, reluctantly. Mrs. Del Vecchio lingered near the gate, whispering to her book club friends. Alyssa stood alone, shaking. She looked at Rourke, then at me. "This isn't over," she said. "Yes," I said. "It is." The boardwalk emptied out over the next hour. A few stragglers took photos of the monitor screen. Someone posted the video to social media. By midnight, it had 50,000 views. I stayed at the prize counter, the shadow box in front of me. Rourke stood beside me, quiet. "Your wife was a remarkable woman," he said. She was. She knew exactly how this would play out, down to the location, the crowd, the timing. I looked at him. "Did she know about the video?" "She suspected Alyssa would rehearse something. She told me to watch for it. When the makeup artist sent it to me yesterday, I knew it was the final piece." I picked up the shadow box, held it up to the light. The keys inside were worn, the metal tarnished. The keyring was a cheap plastic fob from a hardware store, the kind you get for free when you buy a lock. Mara and I had picked out that lock together. 23 years ago, we'd stood in the aisle at the home improvement store, debating finishes and security ratings, and she'd laughed at how seriously I was taking it. "It's just a lock, Gabe," she'd said. "It's our lock," I'd replied. I set the shadow box down. Rourke opened his bag and pulled out a steel donation box. It was small, about the size of a shoebox, with a slot in the top and a sturdy lock on the front. The side was labeled in clean white letters, Joyland Youth Housing Foundation. He set it on the counter. "This is where the keys go," he said. I stared at the box. "Mara arranged this?" "She did. Every dollar generated by the penalty clauses goes here. Every unauthorized access attempt, every sublease violation, it all funds housing for kids who need it." He opened the shadow box and lifted out the keys. "She wanted you to be the one to put them in." I took the keys. They were cold and heavy in my hand. Behind me, I heard footsteps. I turned. Alyssa stood at the edge of the concession area, alone. Her face was streaked with tears. "Can I say something?" she asked. I didn't answer. She stepped closer. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know I—" Her voice broke. "I thought if I could just get the apartment, we'd be okay. Evan and me. We'd have a place to start, a foundation." "You already had a foundation," I said. "You had 2 parents who would have done anything for you, and you treated them like obstacles." "I know." "Do you? Because even now, standing here, you're trying to justify it. You're trying to make it sound like you had a reason." She looked down. "What do I do now?" "You figure it out," I said. "Like everyone else." She nodded, started to leave, then stopped. "My dad, Tom, is he really not going to help me?" I glanced at Rourke. He was watching her with an expression I couldn't quite read. Not anger, not pity, something in between. "Your dad is helping you," Rourke said. "By not helping you." She flinched, then left. I turned back to the donation box. "Do it," Rourke said. I held the keys over the slot. They caught the light for a moment, glinting. Then I dropped them in. The sound they made, metal on metal, rattling down into the locked box, was final. I stepped back. Rourke closed the shadow box and handed it to me. "Keep this, as a reminder." "Of what?" "That some doors are meant to stay closed." I took it. We stood there for a moment, the boardwalk stretching out behind us, the ocean somewhere in the distance, dark and endless. Then Rourke picked up the donation box. "I'll get this to the foundation office tomorrow," he said. "The first penalty payment should process by end of week." "How much?" $1,500. Alyssa's assistant tried to confirm the moving company reservation this afternoon. Automated system flagged it as an unauthorized access attempt. I almost smiled. Mara would have liked that. "She did," Rourke said. "She wrote it into the system herself." He turned to leave, then paused. "You going to be okay, Gabe?" I looked at the empty counter, the dark rides behind us, the pier stretching out into nothing. "Yeah," I said. "I'm going to be fine." He nodded and walked away. I stood there alone for another few minutes. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of salt and rust and old popcorn oil. Mrs. Delvecchio's dog barked somewhere in the distance. A sharp, insistent sound, like a gavel. I smiled. Then I turned and walked toward my car. The keys were gone. The apartment was secure. The penalties were active. Mara's plan had worked. And for the first time since the funeral, I felt like I could breathe.